So these are our
We
questions.
can be soft about our our start.
Let's see.
So hello, I named the show Magic Beans because I imagined it being a morning show with Jilly Beans, your host, and coffee, which is also made out of beans.
I like it. I think it's cute.
But now I've done 3 or 4 interviews in the evening, so I guess not.
I like decaffeinated coffee beans.
I had some decaf not that long ago. And just because I need to adjust things after we start, I'm gonna pull my microphone a little bit closer and have the note cards out. We're gonna play question roulette. And I have my dear friend Kelli O'Neill here.
Hello.
And Rizzo's out too.
Yes.
And Kelli and I met 4 years ago when I moved here.
Yeah.
And ironically, the day that I arrived here, way before we met, but the day that I arrived here, March 2nd.
That was the day me and my husband got married.
Mm-hmm.
So you arrived that day, and we met shortly after in the Italian group.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Yeah. And actually, that place is doing ongoing Italian classes now.
I think, yeah, they're sponsoring them and stuff. So that's nice. Okay. Glad the camera's not too low. We got a little puppy here. He's everywhere between our feet, or I guess our laps.
The feet, the lap. Someone's dog came over and stiffened my crotch yesterday, and I'm like, ooh, I feel so embarrassed.
I know, it's like,
I did not do that.
Yeah.
This dog, take responsibility for your own dog.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It's just funny what comes up. But I have been so eager to have this conversation because I've watched you evolve personally over these last 4 years and really come into your own recently. So, tell us a little bit about you. What's your title? What do you go by, and what are you interested in?
So I finished at the Institute for Integrative Nutrition in January of this year. So I am an integrative health coach. I also went ahead and I've done an additional certification as a cycle guide through Spirit Woman's Sisterhood. That was an online certification. So those are the two titles that I have: cycle guide and integrative health coach. And I'm interested in helping women work with their nutrition as far as integrating more plants into their diet as much as possible, and also working to balance their life, especially with their hormone levels throughout the month, our cycles, because we don't function on the same cycles that men do. So it's different, and it's important that women know that they shouldn't demand that the same version of themselves to show up every day, because at different points in your cycle, your hormones are fluctuating and you literally aren't meant to show up in the same space every day. So I think it's important to encompass a whole life approach.
It is. I needed to know someone like you always, but I can't imagine how different life would have been if I had the awareness that people like you, and now my present incarnation of myself, existed while I was still living a pretty fast-paced suburban New Jersey lifestyle where it's commonplace for both men and women not only to work, but to work full-time, and to work full-time and often a part-time job as well, especially, we're in our 30s, so 20s and 30s before you've really established yourself. It's common to need that much work just to meet your basic needs.
Yeah, very much so. And throw in women who choose to have children during that time. And, we're constantly expanding for our lives. And it's important to take time for ourselves and, make sure that we are present in ourselves, like in our own lives, so that we can show up however we want to. For other people, so for other communities too. I'm actually interested because I actually don't know your full official title as well. So
It's because I keep changing it.
I know. So why don't tell me what we are currently calling ourselves.
So it's actually it's funny to me because I just put up a post about how I always felt like the family flake, where my parents they're teachers. They both are retired now, but they taught for like my dad taught for like 44 years in education, and my mom took a break to raise us, but she was about the same. And so that juxtaposition of like having my family with really traditional work where I don't know, probably 10 of us are teachers, and then me where it's like, I was a personal trainer and a travel agent, and then I was an adjunct professor, and then I was this and that. Um, Presently, my credentialing is in yoga therapy.
Okay.
And so my work presently is all focused around trauma recovery, which doesn't just max out at the mental health level, because that actually is not my qualification. I am a behavioral health specialist and a physical health specialist. So a lot of the work that I do with regard to trauma is nervous system management. I like to call it the nervous system reboot. But in that same vein, people that have gone through trauma, whether it's something really obvious that they can point to or something less obvious, such as a nervous system that's just primed to react more chronically, they'll often come in with chronic pain, things like that. But trauma and actually right now codependency recovery has been something that I've been navigating myself for before I realized that that's what I was navigating for about 10 to 12 years. And I am presently teaching a course on codependency recovery that is largely trauma and nervous system focused, but I'm able to pull in where it's in my scope as a yoga therapist, psychology, specifically Jungian psychology, balancing our masculine and our feminine energies.
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah.
So important.
Yeah. Mastering nervous systems, but also mastering your mind and getting clear about some of the areas that we weren't taught to look at. There was no line of questioning to dive deeper into it. So that's what the work is right now.
That's so exciting.
And so the broad stroke is yoga therapist, and then within that it's more specifically trauma and codependency.
So if somebody has like emotionally stored pain in their physical body, you would help them to release that and address it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay.
Or if they know overtly that they have encountered some kind of trauma, I would be an appropriate member of their wellness team.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Good to know. Good to learn about.
Right?
I feel like we're all going to need you at some point in our lives.
Yeah, it's been a year. I'm getting ready to train my social workers, and like every time I prep an email for them, I'm like, it's been a year, hasn't it? It's been quite a year. So.
And what are you teaching the social workers?
Similar stuff.
Okay.
Trauma recovery, what the nervous system does in trauma, how to master it, how to use mind-body tools so that we can all get better. You got to have a multi-pronged approach in your healing.
I feel like whenever I started to address my healing, I needed like 3 different specialty people. I was like, I have a pelvic floor physical therapist, I have my actual therapist, I need a life coach, I need somebody to help me like address my own trauma. Maybe I need 4, I don't know.
The team is important. And,
it is.
And even if you can't necessarily get one-on-one with all these people, there are plenty of ways to meet all of those needs, because a lot of these professionals run groups, and
yes,
and even now a lot of the groups are free. I know I myself am involved in both Al-Anon and CODA, which is completely free nationwide, internationally as well.
And workshops also help service providers and therapists keep it at a different price point, so it can help more people, as opposed to a one-on-one client where it would be a little bit more a little bit more. What's the word I'm looking for?
A little bit more of an investment.
Yeah, so thank you. I was like, it's a word. It has to do with the market. Yes, a little bit more of an investment. These workshops are great things to get involved with. So, yeah.
Wonderful. Let's, we're, the dog walked through the questions and now we're all jumbled.
Yes, trying to pick another one.
But since you have all that wonderful training in nutrition, I'm so curious about what your eating habits are.
Well, they have changed a lot over time. So I first got interested in nutrition because I just simply wanted to be thinner. So that's what it started as. I started working out. In addition to that, I just started feeling really good. And I wanted to make sure I was putting the right things in my body. And I really started investigating it more way before I enrolled in IIN. When I started investigating my thesis, well, my capstone thesis project for my undergrad. And it was all about the food cultures of Italy versus food cultures of the United States. Because she knows this, but I'll share. I graduated from the American University of Rome. So, and we were actually there at the same time, or like right after each other. We just missed each other.
We just missed each other by like maybe one semester.
I know. We've been like shadowing each other throughout life. But I was doing research for the thesis for my degree, and I just was so shocked and really angry when I learned that how political the food system is and how it's really managed by of course, we know the USDA, the United States Department of Agriculture. It's managed a lot by them. They put out these, what's it called, the food pyramid, different things like that. But the United States Department of Agriculture is meant to protect the agricultural interests of the United States. It's not necessarily anything to do with nutrition. And the more I learned,
bamboozled.
it was just crazy. I mean, at one point, and I don't know what the number is now, but at one point, 9 out of the 13 board members that sat on the nutrition panel that came up with this pyramid had financial ties to the meat and dairy industry. And it just was like, what? Why are these people able to make these choices and put out these guidelines, these advisements on health? So that started like a real big light bulb for me. And then I'm sure a lot of people who watch this have heard of What the Health or Food Inc. And then there's Game Changers. So I really got interested in a plant-based lifestyle. And I really enjoy eating a plant-based lifestyle. I feel like my digestion just works better. Like everything's going good. I don't feel heavy after a meal when I eat plant-based. I'm not 100% plant-based though, so I tend to eat probably about like 85% plant-based. It's just I like the way I feel when I eat that way, and when I choose to deviate, I try to make sure that I choose animal products that are humanely raised, they're organic, grass-fed, that type of industry is what I want to support. And I firmly believe we vote every time we spend. The most radical act sometimes is going to the grocery store, and I want to put my money where my mouth is. So, and I just feel better eating that way. So that's mainly what I do. What about yourself?
So in the yoga world, we have the principle of ahimsa, which is it's nonviolence.
Okay.
But because yoga is so ancient and it predates the convenience of a grocery store, there aren't any specifications on what we should be doing. So we know that goals are, if we clean up the things that we're putting into our body, we're going to have better health. And so that kind of operates for us on a spectrum. For me personally, I am something of an ovo-pescatarian. I do have a couple of food sensitivities, including wheat. Including, so that's not just gluten, like the whole wheat.
Yeah, bulgur, everything. Yeah.
So everything.
you've work through some of those, right?
I went to my witch doctor.
Yes, I love a good witch doctor story.
A good old witch doctor story. I wasn't gonna, I had no intention of really addressing them because it was wheat, whey in like tremendous amounts, and soy.
Okay.
And so those were things that I was kind of used to avoiding anyway. I have a history in bodybuilding and I was a personal trainer for a very long time. So I had my pasta substitute, or if I was going to eat with my family, and we're Italian, it is what it is. And, you know, it's one night and I won't overdo it.
Right.
But I decided to, I decided to get help when I developed a sensitivity to eggs. And they were such a staple for me following my bodybuilding show, which was 5 years ago. I haven't done it since. And I got a referral from a friend of mine who's going to be on this show soon.
Huh?
And she's like, you need to go to David Kennett. He works in Santa Barbara and New York City, and he's coming into New York City within the month. So I made an appointment with him, and he is a sound healer, and he's also an allergist, a holistic allergist. So it was a really interesting session. He like picked up my foot and went like, ooh.
Yeah.
And like I was telling the first guy that I dated after my divorce about it. He's like, I can't believe you got shaken down for however much money. I was like, don't unravel the healing. Like,
yeah, if it works, it works.
Effect, like, don't ruin this for me. I can finally eat again, and it feels so good. But anyway, that was my witch doctor story.
I agree with what you said. If the placebo worked, just let it keep working. Like it's okay.
Yeah, I'm okay with the woo.
How many sessions did it take, or was it like one session?
It was one session.
Oh wow, I'm impressed.
And I went back years later to address the wheat allergy. But so I've been ovo-pescatarian for a while. My parameters around that is, if it's food that serves to me, I'm eating it, as long as, unless it's something I really don't want to eat. I'm not huge on pork. I've never been huge on pork. So even if it's offered to me, I probably don't want it.
I'm not a big fan of ham, but if somebody's like, we have prosciutto di Parma, I'm going to be like, okay, you got a cantaloupe? Because I feel like we have to do that.
And like you have Ayurvedic training as well. So
yes.
You know that combination's like not great for you. And it's like,
I know.
I won't eat it all the time. It'll be an indulgence.
It's the Italian just sneaking into my soul from being there for so long. So it's not something we do a lot, combo. But like if you do that, once over the summer, I feel like you're going to be okay.
Yeah, and it's kind of it's something that you would probably have to put together at home.
Yeah, I don't think anywhere around here serves that.
Not in Baton Rouge.
No, not yet. Maybe one day.
But yeah, so it was interesting because I had tried to go plant-based earlier in my life when I was a personal trainer, and I got to watch my motivation change where early on it was, I don't care about animals, but I realized that there is a way to lose weight and I want to test it out before I give it to clients. And then that kind of grew into, there's a lot of hormones in animals as they're being slaughtered. I'm like, maybe I'll scale it back because I can't afford ethically raised meat. And I think it was after I came home from Rome that I really started to confront the fact that I really do care about animals and their welfare. And so as often as possible, I would like to eat things that were ethically raised and ethically killed and just healthier for me. It's better for the animal. It's better for the industry that I prefer to support.
It's also better for the environment too, because initially I started it for health reasons as well. And the more it's like going down that rabbit hole. Once you know something, you can't unknow it. And one of my thesis adventures is I went to an actual dairy farm where they make all the mozzarella, and it was so much fun. But they took us on a tour of the farm. This is in Italy, and like the animals are just running free. They're so happy. Like when it's time for them to get milk, they just like, walked up there because somebody's there, and um, it's not a huge it's a huge business, but they do lots of little local places and not these giant factories
Mm-hmm.
where the cows aren't treated as well. And I mean, I'm telling you, it was beautiful. There was rolling hills everywhere. The little goats were around everywhere. The goats and the cows were everywhere. And a guy, it was beautiful to really see the whole process and animals being treated well. And I don't know. I think it changed me too, because then I started looking at our animal agriculture. I highly advise everybody to read. There's this book, The Omnivore's Dilemma, and it doesn't really advocate for any particular lifestyle, but it does take you down the different agricultural tracks in the United States, like the local level, the big industry, and also like the hunter who would go slaughter his own
Mm-hmm.
deer or something. And it takes you through different agricultural trains and describes a lot of the business side of it. And it was really eye opening. I think that's a good place for people to start learning about that. So I agree. I transitioned the meaning of why I was doing it. So it's kind of fun.
It is kind of fun. And I think looking back, um, being in gyms where there's like a machismo around, even though I was a woman, I was often the only female trainer on staff. And there's just an element of like having to hold your own and having to, for me in my early 20s, having to kind of blend in and fit in and just, that was my environment. And you know what you know until you know more.
Yeah, you do the best you can with what you have, and when you know better, you do better.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and actually, speaking to the machismo effect of being in that gym type environment, have you had the chance to watch Game Changers?
No, I'm the worst at watching anything.
That's a good one. It follows a guy who's like investigating a plant based lifestyle, but for the purposes of performing better. Like it was for him, it was strictly performance in the gym. And they talk about all these Olympic athletes that moved over because they wanted their performance in the gym to be better. And it was really cool. I don't want to spoil it all, but like it's just like they put together all these different pieces of the puzzle, and it just, again, the more you know, the more you do better or do differently, I'll say. And you can't unknow once you know.
Right. And I think it was valuable because you mentioned, and you probably, I would assume, have a lot of people that come to you that have not been plant based and maybe it's not even on their radar yet, but even just to give people the parameter of it's not all or nothing.
Yeah.
50-50, it could be 85-15, or whatever happens to work well for you as you're testing the waters. I think that's really valuable because we're such an extreme society.
We are, and I think that is beautifully stated, because a lot of people are like, "Oh, I could never do that." Well, you don't have to say that it's forever. Like, just do it for 3 weeks and see how you feel. Like, it doesn't have to be forever unless you want it to be, but you should try it on for size. And if maybe, I mean, there are people who say, "I am vegan until 6 p.m." And that's their prerogative. And I think any small change that you can move in the right direction for your health is better, and you don't need to beat yourself up for the other portion unless you're, I mean, even then I guess you shouldn't need to beat yourself up, but unless you're unwilling to look at it, that might be where I would say, might need to have some conversations about why. But as long as you're open to it, yeah. I mean, you have to find what works for you. And I would never like any. I have two clients right now who are not plant based, and I'm not trying to make them. Um, you have to just find what works for you and incorporate as much variety into your diet as possible, because that's really key for longevity, gut health, all that stuff.
See, that's a major stumbling block for me as well. Um,
Oh, that's right. You did tell me that one time. You were
I'm
like,
a very homogenous eater. I know exactly how long it takes to cook everything that I've eaten recently, and often it's like, how quickly can I get food into my stomach in between things, or like after a workout. But I like the idea of being vegan up until 6 p.m. If I were going to eat meat, it would be earlier during the day because, like you, my digestive system needs some time. But I also find myself, when the moon is full and my period is coming, um, I will allow myself steak. I'll go and seek out steak and make sure that I have it. I tend to get a little bit on the anemic side.
yeah, and that's fine. You know, I guess it's finding what works for you, making sure you're sourcing ethically, and doing the best with what you can. Yeah, I mean, Iverstein Farms locally. Iverstein Farms is
Yes.
amazing, and there's some other ones that are also at the farmers market. But Iverstein has a brick and mortar store on Perkins, so
Yeah, they're great, my buddies. Um, so I want to ask another question because it came up when we were having coffee the other day. I want to hear about your morning practice.
so that has been evolving and evolving again. They say I've been involved in a lot of different success groups over the past 2 or 3 years, and like each one of them has this different set of like morning routine things that you have to do, and it's like so overwhelming. At one point you realize you're like, okay, well, I want to work out in the morning, I want to meditate, I got to do morning pages, I got to do breathing, I got, and like it's just like it gets so, it gets so much. Do I want the smoothie in the morning because that's what they say, or do I want to do hot lemon water in the morning? I mean, it gets to a point where it's just so overwhelming. So I had been doing morning pages, and I found that I was and I did them pretty consistently, like for I think 6 or 8 months every day. And I would write them down. Morning pages are just basically like a brain dump. Like you just write, write, write. But I found that I was doing a lot of like complaining in them. And I was like, that's not good. So I tried to switch it to like a gratitude list. I tried to switch it to just how you want your life to be. Recently, I've gotten a book, and I can't believe I'm blanking on the names, but it's a book about Shakti, or the goddess energy, and how to embrace it. And it goes through several different goddesses in the Hindu religion and what they represent. It goes over mantras that you can chant, and the mantras are all in Sanskrit. So right now, that is what I'm doing. I'm working on trying to do mantras in the morning. And I'll just pick a goddess that I would like to invoke and like use one of their mantras. And I go through. So actually, I wore this specifically. This is my mala beads, and they're cherry jasper, moonstone, labradorite, and they're 108 beads, and I've been using this to kind of ground me so that my mind doesn't wander as much. And I just have been saying the mantra, like, and I've been going around it one full circle. Um, the mantras are long, and I'm having a hard time remembering all of them. So I tend to choose the shortest one. I'm like, it's gonna be okay. The intention is there, and I read somewhere at some point in time that sometimes even if you don't do it perfectly, the intention of what you do is so powerful that it transcends any mistakes you might make along the way. So that's what I've been doing. And I've honestly, like, this is very new. I've been doing it for about, honestly, maybe a week and a half, because these came in about 2 weeks ago, I want to say. So that's been new for me, but it's been nice to just do some breathing in the morning. So that's what I have been doing recently, and it might change. But I think it's just important to experiment until you find a routine that works for you, because there's so many different routines, and you can certainly take advice from everybody, but it has to be yours in the end. So, what do you do though?
Ha ha. Like you, I am involved in a few different groups, and the morning practices right at this moment they're kind of off the rails. I am doing the artist way, which is Julia. I almost called her Julia Child, not Julia Child. Julia Campbell's masterwork of the book, and in the book form, it's a self-guided workshop, but
She
it's 12
spoke at
weeks.
Integrative Nutrition.
Oh, well,
So
that's
yeah,
where the
that's great.
morning
Okay,
pages come
good.
from.
Yes.
Yeah, Julia Campbell gives us morning pages, and I am doing that every morning. I'm also doing 369 style manifestations, which is a different set of affirmations. I
Yeah.
write them out 3 times in the morning, 6 times in the afternoon, 9 times in the evening. And then I also am involved with a group called Wealth, which is Carolyn Elliott's group. And she has a morning practice for us as well. So, mornings, I'm up very early trying to get all of the stuff done.
Yes.
And so, yes, I understand what you're saying about like wanting to get the morning practice done and the meditation in and the workout done. I really like having my mornings to myself, and that's usually not the case unless it depends how early I'm willing to get up. But yeah, it can. I made the error this morning of getting out of bed, and I completed most of my practices. I hadn't sat down for my meditation yet, and I tricked myself. And I said it out loud to my computer. I'm like, I'm not getting on you yet. And I don't know how it happened, but I looked up 2.5 hours later, and I had to get on a call, and I hadn't meditated, and I hadn't worked out. I had a bunch of random stuff done. I set up my external hard drive and that kind of stuff. But it gets a little hairy. But I think that having a discipline-based practice, even if it's something that you try for a little bit and it's not for you, I think it's really valuable to form. I don't want to say a habit because I don't want it to be something that's not conscious, but to routinize. There goes our doggy.
Rizzo is alerting us.
Yeah, but to routinize your things that you want to include in your life. So
yes,
I'm very excited that the word Shakti came up in our conversation.
I'm excited about that too. Okay, sorry.
So, in your work and being exposed to these different deities and their mythology, are there any that you find really attractive right now?
So, I'm like not even halfway through this book, so I don't think I could choose one right now. I know the one that's coming to mind right now is Lakshmi, but I am having a hard time remembering all of them because they're so new to me. I grew up in a Roman Catholic household, so
the mala probably comes pretty naturally to you.
Oh my gosh, yes. I mean, it does definitely resemble like the rosary, but it's different. Like all the numbers are different and the meanings behind them and all this stuff. But learning about the goddesses and the goddess energy and really trying to step into that because I'm really trying to get to a place where, and I think we all are in a little in some way, like to get quiet enough in ourselves so that we can get to that space where we are in tune with our intuition. I think we, as women, as a society, have been taught to not listen to it. And in some ways, that has worked out well for us. The feminist movement. Now we can open checking accounts by ourselves. Now we're allowed to work and theoretically get equal pay. We're still working on that a little bit, but it has served us well in some aspects. But I think we have lost. I think we've lost along the way that ability to get in touch with that knowing part of us.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to get back in touch with it myself. I'm working on it. So
yeah, I'm curious. I have follow-up questions about Catholicism and how church may have influenced you in general, because one of the things that I'm noticing in my own recovery journey is now that I'm healing and now that I'm able to more and more quickly find my path to God and Goddess
Right.
and connect directly to them, I'm very hesitant to give up my key to the divine to someone else. I don't need them to open the door for me. I don't need to hand over my key and hope that they open the door.
Right.
It's just a place that I tend to really hesitate around, which is interesting because oh, there goes our dog again. Because in the South, there is such a culture for being involved in churches, both spiritually and socially.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
It is. I guess I feel the same way. I mean, the structure of, and not just the Roman Catholic Church, but like the structure of a physical building and a set of practices and a everything that we do. In a lot of ways, there's a lot of similarities, but also there's a lot of just doctrine, and there's not as much discussion. And I feel like when I was younger and I would ask questions, answers that were given to me weren't very satisfactory. And, because I said so from your mom, that's one thing when you're, being told not to go play in the street or something. But because God said so is quite a different answer when you're actually asking a question and wanting, a real answer. So it's interesting to explore. I haven't never been asked that, like the how it have affected me. I think it made me. I know for a while, because I did not like going to church. It's not as exciting at certain points in your life, I guess.
They took all the feminine energy out of it.
Yes. But that's very true. But I think for a long time I was very angry with my parents for not for sending me to Catholic school or anything, but for they would always invite me to like go to the March for Life or go to this retreat or go to that retreat, or do you want to do this? And it's why haven't you been going to church? Once I moved out and I was living on my own, and it was because it made me angry, because I'm like, I'm not pregnant, I'm not doing drugs, I'm a well-behaved, functioning member of society. I just, why am I not good enough just being myself? Like, why do I have to go into this building for you to be happy? I could have earbuds in and be thinking, whatever I want to be, but as long as I'm in the building, I'm okay. Like, it was just I was very angry about it for a long time. Like, why am I not good enough for you? But I think I got to a point maybe about 4 or 5 years ago where, as much as it still aggravates me, some of the things that have happened, and different things that they invite me to that I really just don't support, I realize that they're only wishing me the peace that they found. And I mean, not gonna go, but like, thank you for the invitation. I'm not gonna be like angry with you or myself for an hour after now. But it took me a long time to get to that space. And I think a lot of what you said is true. They took a lot of the feminine energy out of church, and they took it. Eve was made out to be some terrible, terrible creature, because as a woman, because she ate the apple. And I've actually been reading Untamed by Glennon Doyle.
I'm reading Untamed.
Okay, I don't know if you got to this part, but there's a part where she says all Eve did was want more. And I feel like a lot of women want more out of their life. They know they're meant for more. And because she ate the apple, because she betrayed her husband, she betrayed God, by wanting more. She was punished, and I think it's really funny. I don't know how Glennon Doyle said it, but maybe Eve wasn't meant to be, shouldn't have been punished. Maybe she should have been our example to go after what you want.
Like,
and I was like,
I think that story it fascinates me so much because I think it really starts to show what our shadows can warp into. So like where where Eve's thing was like she ate the apple and now she has the knowledge and now she wants sex, now she knows about whatever different positions, and or maybe that was Lilith. I might be getting my
yeah, I don't know what that is.
I might be getting my people wrong, but she now has this information about sexuality, which is a common way for women to manipulate. And we're also seeing Adam's shadow, like he's not absolved, I'm sorry, but he threw his wife under the bus and was just like,
Yeah,
it was her, she did it. So very interesting to see the masculine shadow, are the shadows within any masculine energy, whether you're in a female body or a male body or whatever other kind of gender you might identify as. We have both energies. And the masculine energy in balance is protective, assertive. They govern, they hear all sides of a story, they're decisive. So for him to just kind of throw her, allow her to be blamed and just renounce responsibility is not indicative of a healthy masculine energy. And so they were in balance and they went out of balance together.
Yeah.
So, really cool.
It's interesting. I mean, it's just different perspectives, and again, you have to find the one that you identify with that sits well in your bones.
Yeah. We're getting down to the end of our questions.
Oh, what's going to be the next one?
You pick one. We talked about this one. My favorite goddess right now is Persephone.
Oh, I'm sorry, I forgot to ask.
That's okay. That's okay.
Can you tell me what she's the goddess of?
She is the Greek goddess of hell.
I know the story with Hades and the pomegranate.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. So in addition to my many titles, I'm not claiming all of these titles. These are just hobbies, and sometimes they'll be more than hobbies. But I write poetry, and my poetry has been a wonderful platform for me to digest my life experiences, but also to make them into my art. So I have found a lot of deep resonance with Persephone as someone who was involved in an abusive marriage and left, and there's a long journey of healing that occurs after it, and a lot of it is just not being able to see clearly.
Yeah.
And you might get a decade into your journey and be saying something that happened out loud to someone, and it never struck you as being unusual until you see their reaction. You're like, oh, that actually isn't a healthy thing to happen in marriage. So I walked away from this situation with my self-esteem and self-worth just completely decimated. And even though I had a nice normal family, I viewed myself as the bottom of the barrel. I held a lot of beliefs about myself, about a God, as I understood God at that time, which has since evolved. And so a lot of my poetry is quite dark, but quite beautiful, because it's a part of me, for better or worse. It's a part of me, and when we come into our wholeness, we don't get there if we're not willing to accept the dark.
Right. So is that why do you feel like you identify with Persephone? Like
I
yourself?
do.
So that's that.
Yeah.
Okay, I could see that.
Yeah, because she came to accept her position. She was a rape survivor. That's part of her mythology, and she overcame it, and she became a deity. She became immortal. She accepted where she was. There's other stuff that I'm glossing over.
Yeah.
But really cool mythology, and certainly worth a gander if you've been through some stuff. There's a lot of inspiration for healing out there. Yeah, I like her.
You just like her. She's
I
your
like
friend.
her. Yeah,
I like
she's my
her.
girl.
Okay, so for our last questions, I guess let's talk about any programs that you have going on.
Oh God, my programs right now. I just hired a marketing team because it's hard to run a business by yourself.
It is.
And I feel like I just got to the point now. I've been in Baton Rouge for 4 years, so totally different incarnation of my business as I knew it at home. Although I had always worked in similar veins, but they're helping me get organized. I have a couple books on the horizon.
Oh, yay.
I have a couple of evergreen courses that I do run as groups, but right now they're presently go at your own pace. One is called Soul Survivor, and that is a course to help people address their codependencies, find a deeper sense of themselves, um, identify and work with their relationship attachment patterns, and to actually conquer love loss addictions. So that's an interesting area because often, whether we're conscious of it or not, following ends of romantic situations, there's a lot of addictive tendencies that go on. So sometimes it's overt obsession, and sometimes it's sabotaging things as you get closer to someone that you might really grow with. Um, so that's a big project of mine right at this moment. I do have 2 books that I'll be working on editing. Spent my whole quarantine writing. There are 4 books, but only 2 of them are going to come out.
That's exciting. I think learning attachment styles really helps you look at your shadow self as well. And that is something that I'm going to be very interested in learning from you.
Thank you. And tell us about your programs that you have presently.
So right now, I take one-on-one clients if somebody prefers that, and I've written one workshop. I shouldn't. I guess it's a course more than a workshop, but it's helping somebody transition to plant-based lifestyle. And the goal of it is, I've written it currently. I've written it as a 12-week program, meeting 6 times every other week. And every time we meet, we'll present what new information as to why you would want to be plant-based, and what you would like to incorporate, and discussion. It's a group thing, so we're meant to all support each other. But every week we either add something into our eating habits, or we take away something. So by the end of the 12 weeks, so not when you first arrive, but by the end of the 12 weeks, you should be completely plant-based. And my goal is for somebody to live that way fully for, at least 60 days, and see how it helps their body, like see how it affects them. And after that, take time to reflect and decide how you want to carry this information and this knowledge that you now have mentally, but also in your body, how you want to carry that forward. Do you want to be somebody who's completely plant-based? Do you want to be somebody who's like 85%, kind of like me? Or do you want to be like, as long as it's after 6 p.m., I can have what I want? Those are, there's different ways, because we're just trying to move in that direction as much as we can, however it feels best for us. And I'm also, I didn't write this one, but I am certified to teach the Sacred Cycle course, which is all about women's cycles. It's all about working with your body. It relates it to the different female archetypes that we identify with throughout the month, different seasons. Because every month we go through spring, summer, fall, and winter. We go through those in our body. And what foods that we can eat that support that, what lifestyle choices we can make that can support that. And it's just amazing. I love that topic so much, and I feel like I went to an all girls Catholic school and I was not given this information. Even if you take out the more hippie part of it, I feel like just the biology of it, I wish I would have known. Like, birth control, I mean, and what it actually does to your body. I mean, and not to say it's completely bad. I mean, everybody has the right to choose, but if you're taking it for the purposes of covering up symptoms, then you're not addressing those symptoms.
Mhm.
And that's the original reason I got on birth control, and I just wish I would have had more of this information to help my body feel better, and then make that decision later if I wanted to with a partner.
Yeah.
But those are the two courses that
Oh
I
my
am
gosh.
getting ready to launch. And yeah, I'm very excited about both of them.
I'm very excited about both of them. I need to get into that flow course for sure.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
Talk about Ayurveda in it too.
I remember I've been off of birth control for about 10 years, but I remember getting on it right before I started college, and I started having like illnesses regularly every month. And I went to the doctor, and the doctor was just like, "That's your body now." I'm like, no,
No, it's
not
not.
my body.
We are not meant to be in pain. Like,
Yeah.
I know Eve did a number on us, but like, this isn't
The
it.
state of ill health is just now your body. It's like, oh
Yeah.
no, that's not it. That's incorrect. But yeah, I wish I had known. Even just to be able to get to slow down when you have your period, or knowing that I'll have more energy when I'm ovulating.
Yes.
Even as an entrepreneur, that makes a difference.
Yeah, I mean, you can know if you map out your cycles, you can know how to plan your life better. I mean, and by that I mean use whatever stage you're in your cycle to your advantage, because there are strengths in every part of your cycle, and if you don't realize it, then you don't have the opportunity to tap into it. So I just love it.
I love it too. I'm so happy we got to have this conversation finally. It's been a long time coming.
Me too, and I haven't seen where you live now, so this has been fun for me.
Yes, and you met my puppy dog.
I
My roommate's
did.
puppy dog. My puppy dog by proxy. So, thank you so much. Give me a big hug.
Thank you so much for having me.
And until next time, my friends, I send you much love. Mwah.
Peace and love.